Good morning, YouTube. So, well, I guess today's video is going to be like, what all really goes into a big build. And, well, we have a lot of stuff here, but, we're going to take that all out of the equation. What I'd like to talk about is just the build itself. We're not going to talk about the $1,000 worth of wire, $1,500 battery. I think these amps are like $1,500 a piece right now, so that'd be $6,000. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about people that are planning on doing, a big build similar to this one, or just a big wall build in general, and what you got to spend on that. Because I tell you what, I built this in 2019. This plywood, it's cheap pine, and I know everybody online's always like, you can't use pine plywood, you gotta use birch, or you gotta use MDF. Yeah, I'm louder than most of them people. And yeah, that pine plywood does just fine. It's been doing just fine. I still hold a world record in this thing, so yeah, I don't see no problem with the old pine plywood. But the bad part is it's, I think, over $40 a sheet now, because I went to the old Lowe's this past Monday, just looking, because I need some wood to do my doors with. And yeah, the prices of the wood just kind of baffled me, guys. But luckily, being that I am pretty well known, I got a lot of friends in the Basehead community. I got a friend who buys just like trailer loads of wood. So, he quoted me about $38 a sheet for some plywood. I don't even know what kind it is, guy. I don't know if it's pine or maple, or, the last stuff I got from him to build the wife's build, that was maple. And tell you what, it's heavy. It's very heavy. God, we're almost at like MDF heavy, but it's dense. My God, it's so solid that you try to I found out deck mate screws are like some of the most superior deck screws out there. And I found that out because every other screw that I just tried to run in there without a pilot hole, it'd snap. That's how dense that maple is. So yeah, I don't even know what kind of wood I'm getting from this guy, but 38 a sheet, and it's 1 1/8. So I only need to go 2 layers on that. That'd be pretty nice, right? 1 1/8 times 2. Well, that equals 2 1/4, guys. Now, I'm not sure how my math goes, but 3 times 7.5, that should equal 2 1/4 also. So yeah, I'm getting the same thickness with 2 layers versus 3. But hell, let me get back in the old shit box and get into this. But hell, this is my new film spot. I figure I'll show you this. You see that gate back there? I don't know what the hell that even goes to, but it's a good pull off of this road. But hell, this road's dirt, guys. It ain't even really a gravel road. There ain't no gravel on it. I don't even know. I just found this place on accident. I get out and just drive and search the area that I live in, and I found this about 5 miles away from my house, so we're all good. But yeah, let's get back in here and talk about this shit. Because, we talked about my door build yesterday. So we're going to get back to it. If you're interested in doing a big build, man, I tell you what, you guys save your pennies. Now, some of you guys got it where you can just go out and spend a couple $1,000 on this, on that, on that. I got a wife at home, I pay all the bills, pretty much all the bills in my house. My wife pays some of them, But I try not to make her do that. I try to cover it. That's what the guy's supposed to do in the house. But anyway, yeah, in addition to equipment, you got wood. And today, you're going to have $1,000 probably in wood if you're planning on building a wall for 415s or bigger. B-pillar wall. Screws, hell, that's gone up too. You know, you're over $10 a box. And I don't know about you guys, but when I build, you know, I'm used to building with 3/4 inch. So you kind of want screws that are about 1.5 inches long, or shorter, 1.25 inches. That way you can go through the first layer into the second layer, but not protrude through the second layer. Because when you're doing layers, you know, you build your outer shell with 1 layer of 3/4, then you go back and add a second layer, and you go back and add a third, or at least that's how I do it. So, you know, you want the good old 2-inch for when you're adding that third layer in there. And then I myself like to get some 3-inch screws, that way I can come in from the sides and screw into the baffle itself, for extra support. You know, I zigzag them too. I'll mark lines where the top of the baffle, bottom of the baffle is after I put the baffle in, and I'll just kind of go through zigzag layer, like screw lower, screw high, screw middle, blah, blah, blah. Works pretty good. So you're at least at like 3 boxes of screws, and if you use a lot, you're probably gonna need 2 boxes of the 1.25 and 2-inch, and it just goes on from there. Like in this particular rebuild I'm doing, I'm going on the outside of my wheel wells, so that's another cost, and the cost from that is going on the outside of my wheel wells. I either need to build around my wheel wells, which that's going to eat up airspace, you know, putting a little box around them. I don't see a need to do it. You know, I've got some of this boat mat, and I'm going to call it boat mat because it's really thick woven fiberglass mat that is pretty commonly used in building boat hulls. You know, it's like, bam, it's thick. And then I got chop mat. But to cover them wheel wells and blend them into the wood back there, get everything stuck really good, you know, you're going to need a gallon of fiberglass resin. You're going to need your mat. So that right there, that's just more added cost. It just keeps adding up, guys. PL3X. Man, I use that for everything. Where your corners go together. And I might have a corner like this when I start building, but my second layer I put in, I actually like to come in up to here and the third layer like that. So you get offset at each layer at that corner. And, you know, when you're building a wall in here, I build inside the vehicle, so I can't come from the outside and just throw screws in them joints. So, you know, the old Craig jig comes in handy there. A lot of guys use the Craig jig. But when I do that, at them joints, even though tight bond wood glue that's some phenomenal stuff, I like to go a little stiffer, you know, or a little stronger. I like throwing the old PL3X in there. I'm a fan of the 3X. Some people like the 8X. I like the 3. But either way, you know, that stuff, I think it used to be $5 a tube. I think now it's around $7 probably, because everything's going up. So how many tubes do you use in a build? A lot. A lot, guys. When I did my wife's build, I actually bought a whole case of it. I think there's 12 tubes in a case. I bought a case, and I think I had 1 left over. It's cheaper to buy it by the case, though. At Home Depot, I know it's way cheaper. So you're going to need that. When I did the wife's build, I bought a whole gallon of Tight Bond 2. Now, I lucked out a while back, a couple months ago. Oh, Walt Johnson, buddy of mine, he actually posted on the old face page that he had found Tight Bond 3 16-ounce bottles. They were secretly on clearance at Lowe's for 29 cents a bottle. I went in and bought 16 bottles. Why'd I buy 16? That's all I could find. But indeed, they were 29 cents a bottle. So I got glue covered. But for those of you that don't have glue covered, I'm going to tell you guys, your best bet is to buy a gallon of that stuff. Because the big bottle, it ain't going to cut it, guys. It ain't going to do it. You're better off buying the old gallon. And doing like EXO. I think he uses a damn mustard bottle. You know, the big squeeze mustard bottle. I think he uses one of them, I'm pretty sure he does, to run out his old tight bond. Works great. But, you know, from things that I just listed, you know, your wood, your glue, your tight bond, screws, PL3X. I know I said glue twice. Don't hate me. You know, you're probably at about $1,300 already. And then there's tools. I don't know about you guys, but I tell you what, cutting that dang maple, I went out and bought a brand new Diablo blade, which the Diablo blades work really well. I'd probably buy a new one for this build, but you know, it's only like a $15, $16 blade. Or it was last year. It's probably more now. But anyway, I've been looking at buying a cordless saw and just thinking back to cutting that maple. That Diablo blade went through it really good with my old 1980s Craftsman saw. I don't think one of these new little wireless jobs would, I don't think they'd cut through it that great. So, X that idea. But what I'm getting at here is router bits. I like to cut my baffle with a router. And, yeah, I got the old, the spiral bit, you know, and I use my circle jig or Jasper jig, whatever you want to call it. I use that to cut the first layer. And then I go back with a trace bit and I'll run the old trace bit around it. Does great. But I usually do that for the second and third layer. And I would tell you what, or flush trim bit. That's the word for it. We call it a flush trim bit. But I tell you what, guys, that damn maple, it about burnt my router up. Like, my router was on its last leg, and I didn't think it was going to make it through the last hole. So I need to buy a router. If you don't have a router, you're going to have to buy a router. And there is just so much little crap that goes in a build that you would never even think of. Like, if you can't design, you have to pay somebody for a design. And that's not even cheap. I mean, yeah, it might be $60, $70, $100, you know. But then you got to wait. Because if you're having a designer do it that's a good designer, you're going to have to wait for him to design you an enclosure. And you could be waiting a month or more. So, that's, you know, in addition to added cost, I mean, then you're at a wait time. See, you might as well get a design before you ever buy wood. But, guys, I just want to make this video to make a lot of people realize, I mean, I've done a video similar to this before, but I got a lot of new followers now, and a lot of these guys don't even understand or what, you know, if they're thinking about doing a big build, what goes in it. And I'm not even equating equipment into this. I'm just talking about the build for the enclosure. I mean, God forbid you don't know how to do any type of woodwork and you're paying somebody else to do this, because you're going to be $4 or $5 grand deep into it. And that's just to build you an enclosure. You know, if they're supplying materials, you're going to be like maybe upward of $6 grand right now with wood prices and just everything else factored in. Because believe it or not, I don't build beautiful enclosures. I mean, this just works, you know, but it ain't really pretty. And we've covered the wood and woodworking aspect of it, you know, like buying the wood, buying the materials to screw and glue this all together, and the construction adhesive. But what we failed to mention is bracing. Bracing is a must. You need to have braces if you're doing, especially if you're doing a band pass, underneath the baffle and on top of the baffle. You gotta have bracing. And, you know, steel prices. Now, believe it or not, if you go to Lowe's and buy like water pipe steel or whatever, they're going to rob you blind. So you really need to find you a steel supply store. I think the last time I went in and bought pipe was when I did my wife's build. I bought a 20-foot stick of 1-inch OD. I think it was around $30, maybe. I think it's about $50 now. Steel price has gone through the roof also. you know, and then you got to find somebody that can either weld this stuff up, or you can do like everybody else. You can go to Lowe's and buy the water pipe and try to get all the little adapters, and then lo and behold, if it don't fit, you got to, you know, stack stuff underneath it to try to shim it out so you can bolt it down. I like buying regular old raw pipe and just putting it in and either get ends and weld to it, or make my own ends and weld to it. Like underneath on the wife's, if you guys seen the video of that, I actually made look like ladder looking things where I cut the steel pipe and then put a steel plate on top and bottom, weld it all up. That way I could shove it right in there. It fit nice and snug, and run screws through it, screw it down. But this is all things that go into a big build, guys. I've been thinking about it a lot lately because I'm going into this rebuild, and I'm just like, my God, I didn't even realize how much work goes in it, but all the materials you have to buy. Because when I first built this, it was my first wall, first 6th order. I bought wood. Didn't have enough wood. Went and bought more wood. And I realized that like every day I worked on it, I was making a trip to Lowe's and spending like a couple $100 on things. And it might be whether or not I needed screws, I needed more construction adhesive, you know, I needed router bits. There was just a lot of little things that played in it. Tools to make the job easier, you know, like, do you have a big square? Do you have a speed square? All these little things add up. So just be prepared if you're doing a build, and, you know, hopefully, you know, I'm not really talking to the experienced builders here because y'all know this shit, but I'm talking to the noobs at this. You know, maybe you have an uncle, a dad, a grandfather that does woodworking either as a hobby and they're really good at it, or maybe for a living or construction, and you can go over there and use their tools if you don't have all of them, and they can give you a hand, make the job way easier. If not, you know, I say go into it open-minded, because you're going to need a lot of stuff you're not calculating or preparing for. But measure twice, cut once. And I tell you what, I've made a mistake. I ruined a whole sheet of wood in my wife's build, and it's expensive wood, but like an idiot, I measured 2 directions, you know, like front to back, up and down. And I think I'm halfway dyslexic sometimes, so I really, by the time I got back and like, I didn't write the numbers down. I just kind of went back and was going off memory, marking this board to cut. I accidentally got like 3/4 of an inch off. So my cut was angled when it was like this, like from one end to the other, and I got 3/4 of an inch off. I don't even know how I did it, guys, but I did it more than once. And one of them cuts messed up a whole sheet of wood. Luckily, the second time I did it, I had a scrap piece that was big enough to go and cut to fix it, and then I could use that piece as scrap for something else. But guys, this stuff does happen, so be prepared for it. But anyway, man, I'm rambling on again. I don't like doing that, so I'm gonna get off here and go to work. Yes, it's Saturday. I work on Saturdays. It sucks, I know it, but I got the next 2 days off, guys. Anyway, peace out, everybody, and base on.